Today, there are 2 million descendants of French-Canadian immigrants living in New England. These are our stories. Welcome to the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast.
Venez tous jeunes filles et garçons, je vais vous raconter l'histoire de notre immigration ici au USA, de grands aventuriers, de pays étrangers.
Bonjour everyone, this is Melody with French Canadian News. Can you believe we're already in April? It already looks like there's a lot going on this spring, so let's get into the news. We'll start with 2 announcements by 2 names that we already know. Writer and actor Abby Page will be performing her new solo show, Les Filles du Croix, which will premiere June 16th to the 26th at Lost Nation Theatre in Montpelier, Vermont. The live show will also be available by live stream. This show is about an American with a French-Canadian background who immigrates to Canada a century after her great-grandparents left for the United States. During this bilingual, one-woman show, she asks many questions about her roots and more. Musician Robert Sylvain and friends will be playing music from Mémé's Notebook, Acadian folk songs from Maine, on June 3rd. Mémé's Notebook is a collection of songs that were kept by Robert's grandmother. Robert inherited this notebook and researched their historical sources, where he found the original melodies, and translated and arranged the songs to present to a new generation. Through Mémé's Notebook, Robert shows proof of the thriving Acadian culture in Maine. More information about these shows, including tickets, are available now. In other news, the Acadian Archives was recently given grant money by the Maine Humanities Council to conduct an oral history project in the Upper St. John Valley titled Voices of the Borderland, the Social Impact of International Travel Restrictions in Northern Maine. This project will take the archives team across the region this spring and summer as they work on this project. The yearly Rassemblement will be returning April 22nd to the 24th, so be sure to register if you haven't already. This year will be a hybrid event, both in person and through Zoom, so you can attend either way you'd prefer. The in-person event will take place in Orono, Maine, at the Franco-American Center on the University of Maine campus. We have 2 new posts from Patrick Lacroix on his blog, Query the Past. Check out his post, Nuancing Native-French Relations, which dives into myth versus fact about the history of the relationship between Indigenous people and the French Canadians. Then check out Finding Franco-Americans in Agricultural Reports, which discusses the importance of knowing about these farming reports to determine if an agricultural crisis alone caused immigration from Lower Canada into the United States. Moving on to podcasts, Franco-American Pathways is back with a new episode, Mapping Franco-Biddeford Part 1. In this episode, the Pathways team meets up with Dr. Libby Biscoff and Emma Bouthelette to discuss the Franco-American history of Biddeford, Maine. Be sure to also check out the Pathways blog for documents discussed in this episode. And now on to events. On April 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, check out the Scholars Symposium, The Lost Worlds of Franco-America with Dr. Patrick Lacroix, Director of the Acadian Archives. This event will be in the Bengals Lair at the University of Maine in Fort Kent. That's all I've got for you this time. Everything I've covered today will be linked in the French Canadian Legacy podcast episode description. Merci for listening.
All right, so this week's episode, we are again speaking with a return guest of the podcast, a big friend of the podcast, Dr. Kathleen Stein-Smith. We've interviewed her on a previous episode. She's contributed to our blog. Most of the listeners of this podcast are going to be very familiar with her work. She is a tremendous advocate for the French language. I mean, general language education in general, not just the French language. But she has done amazing work for a lot of the causes that we truly believe in here on the podcast. But in this episode specifically, we are going to focus on an amazing project that I am incredibly excited to be part of. Melody is part of, Tim Bolium, my sister, a lot of people that you will know from listening to this podcast. And this is a book called French All Around Us, French Language and Francophone Culture in the United States. Really cool book. Amazing project. So this week on the podcast, you'll be able to hear again from Dr. Kathleen Stein-Smith. Okay, so bonus question time. That always generally has nothing to do with anything we talked about. When Kathy actually came up and visited New Hampshire to attend a conference of language teachers, and she was very kind. It was an awesome opportunity to be invited to present with her at this conference. I think the highlight for me, though, was when we all went over to the airport diner and hung out there. You know, Mike was there, my sister, and Melody, Tim, and Tim's daughter actually was there. So it was a way fun. Kathy's husband was there. Way fun evening. And I bring this up because it was during that conversation that I discovered that is not exactly the first diner you have ever been in, Kathy. You have quite the diner background. And I thought that was a fun story, if you could give some of that.
Well, I'm from New Jersey, and I'm of a certain age. So New Jersey long was considered, informally at least, the diner capital probably of the United States. And I was blessed in my family. They're actually one of my uncles, the owner of several New Jersey diners
That's so
at
awesome.
one point. And my father, his first job as a kid was short order cook. He went on then to become a firefighter, professional firefighter, but his first job was as a short order cook. And I think at one point or another, probably all of my family worked there in some capacity or other.
That's so cool. Yeah, that was just very, very fun. Again, things you never know. So you sit down and have a dinner at a diner with people. So
It was a wonderful opportunity. I was so happy to present with you. You know, I look forward to visiting New Hampshire again and learning more about the vibrant Franco-American culture that and all the great things that are happening there. You guys were very hospitable, and Jesse, you were the best co-presenter that I could have imagined, and it was a great opportunity to get the word out and to a different group of people.
for
So
sure.
I was so happy that you accepted my invitation to present with me.
It was awesome. It was very, very fun. And yeah, next time you come up, I think we need to give you the Grand Franco tour of Manchester because
All right.
there's all kinds of Franco sites that all around town that we got to make sure to introduce you to. And it'll be way fun. Of course, Martineau Park being my personal favorite, but
Okay. Tell me more.
Sure will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Now our fathers look at us and sigh with despair, to think that everything they love we simply do not share. But the spirit never dies, our culture will survive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive.
Special thanks to Josie Vachon for providing the music. You can find more about her at josievachon.com. This podcast was produced and edited by Mike Campbell. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at fclpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FCL Podcast for more information about the topics discussed. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this episode.